If we can get started in a few minutes, a couple minutes here, please.
Yes, please put it on standby.
I'm always freaked out about that. Yeah, my phone going off in a minute.
What notes do you need? What notes? Wednesday, Thursday.
We're all set. Karen.
He won't probably want to be on that next meeting.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Karen. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. We're going to begin with information item 4.1, the online initiative, online education initiative update. Chancellor.
Thank you, President Baca, members of the board. Let me begin by sincerely thanking Chancellor Thor and the board of the Foothill De Anza District for a lovely reception last evening. We genuinely appreciate the warm welcome we've received here and can't say enough great things about what a fabulous organization this is. And our apologies to everyone for the fact that our agenda was a little fluid and we were to have had a couple of these reports yesterday. We just didn't get to them, and I certainly apologize for that. However, I will assure you we've all had a good night's sleep. We're rested and ready, and so we're actually quite excited about today's agenda. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chancellor Linda Thor from the Foothill De Anza District.
Good morning, President Baca, members of the Board of Governors, and Chancellor Harris. It is a great pleasure for me to belatedly welcome you to the Foothill De Anza Community College District, and particularly to De Anza College. I would like to reintroduce both of our college presidents to you. Dr. Brian Murphy, president of De Anza College, that you will hear from in a minute, and also Dr. Judy Miner, president of Foothill College. Two of the vice chancellors are with us this morning as well. Kevin McElroy, the vice chancellor of business, and Joe Moreau, the vice chancellor of technology, who you will hear from in a minute. Our two colleges serve about 62,000 students a year, which makes our district the largest provider of higher education in the Silicon Valley. We are very proud of the fact that our student bodies are extremely diverse, as you saw when you walked around the campus yesterday. We have an unwavering commitment to equity, opportunity, and student success, as I know you do as well. And we are very proud to lead our peer groups in most of the student success scorecard metrics. So my thanks to the outstanding faculty, staff, and administrators that create and support our empowering learning environments. You are, of course, in the heart of the Silicon Valley. Within the boundaries of our district are such high-tech giants as Apple, just down the street, Google, Symantec, Hewlett-Packard, VMware, LinkedIn, Juniper Networks, and I can go on naming many others. And this area also boasts some of the ed tech pioneers, namely the Khan Academy, Udacity, and Coursera. And you may have heard of our neighbor up the street, Stanford University. I prefer to think that they're in our backyard. Given our environment, it's not surprising that our colleges have provided leadership over the years in instructional technology. For example, Foothill College was the first California community college to offer a course online back in the mid-90s. Today, the college offers 20 associate degrees entirely online, and its nearly 300 online courses account for about 30% of the college's enrollment. Foothill has also provided leadership in open educational resources, including the Open Textbook Collaborative Project. And for the last 3 years, Foothill has sponsored a totally free conference called Leveraging Technology to Support Students, Faculty, and Staff. And last month, the conference was held entirely virtually, and more than 750 registrants from throughout the state and beyond participated. De Anza College is the home of the California Community College's High-Tech Center Training Unit, where faculty and staff can acquire or improve teaching skills needed to serve the more than 10,000 students with disabilities that are enrolled in high-tech center programs statewide. Unfortunately, on your tour yesterday, you ran out of time and didn't get the opportunity to visit the newest building on the De Anza campus, which is the Media and Learning Center, a very technology-rich building. And next to this building is the recently renovated Advanced Technology Center. So we hope that before you leave campus today, you might have the opportunity to look in at some of those buildings. So given this history, it is likely not surprising that Foothill De Anza jumped at the opportunity to lead the visionary and, we believe, transformative California Community College Online Education Initiative. And we thank you very much for the confidence that you showed in us last November when you granted us the initial $16.9 million to get this important statewide effort underway. So this morning we want to give you an update on the first 11 months of the 55-month initiative. And to do that, I will now turn the microphone over to Vice Chancellor Joe Moreau, who is the executive sponsor of the initiative, and to Pat James, who is the executive director of what we call the OEI. So again, welcome to Foothill De Anza.
Thank you, Linda. President Baca, members of the board, Chancellor Harris, thank you for time this morning to share with you what I think you'll see is some really tremendous progress on this very exciting initiative that we're just coming up on our first 12 months. We've had unbelievably great support from the Chancellor's office staff. We've had unprecedented cooperation from stakeholder groups throughout the state. And Pat has assembled a really unbelievably great team of some of the best minds in the state to lead this initiative for us. And the progress in the first 11 and a half months has been really just groundbreaking. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Pat James, who is a longtime veteran of the California Community Colleges and is leading a really powerful and transformative initiative for our system. Pat, take it away.
Good morning. Thank you, President Baca and Chancellor Harris and the board for allowing us to come and talk to you about this initiative. It's an interesting project. It's one of those things that hasn't been done before. Other institutions across the country have done consortia work in trying to centralize distance learning, but they were smaller than we are. So when I say it hasn't been done before, we are not as connected as we'd like to be as far as our administrations are concerned. So pulling 112 colleges together under one idea has its challenges, and it has tremendous joy as well. So as we start to see things coming together, it's a very exciting piece. I want you to know that I am a Kenyatta College graduate, and Kenyatta College enabled me to go to the University of California. And I tell students that when they leave and they go somewhere else, that they shouldn't say they graduated from UC or they graduated from Stanford. They need to say they're a graduate of the California Community College system, which allowed them to get a degree from a nice, wonderful institution that they'll say second. So, all right, so we're going to tell you about the initiative. We have a tagline that's been forming, and it's access, quality, and completion, and that's the focus. And so I want to thank you for allowing us to have this project. I want to also thank the Chancellor's office, which isn't on this slide, and I apologize for that, but particularly Patrick Perry and Pam Walker and their offices for helping us really move this project forward. Thank you. I want to thank you and the Foothill De Anza leadership and also the Butte College leadership, because we're in partnership with Butte's Tech Center. Over a decade ago, we transitioned from telecourses to online courses. And the way that the online courses work in our system is that they are created by the faculty members themselves. And over the years, we've had very little support. We haven't had much respect, and we haven't had a lot of attention. And when I say respect, I mean from other institutions. You know, the community colleges don't have a lot of respect going in as it is. We are junior colleges. We're community colleges. So how could we know best how to do things? In the last few years, I've been nationally working in distance education, and I will tell you, the community colleges of California do it very well. We've been doing 4-credit courses for a long time. I'm proud of them, and I'm proud of our faculty for what they've put together with very little. Out of the goodness of their hearts. So we're counting on them to continue to work in that way. But the classes themselves are created and taught by the teachers so that they are actually a product of that particular teacher. So our style of online is not build a course and then a bunch of teachers teach that course. The way that we do it is the teacher builds the course and teaches it themselves. So just to let you know that that's the way that we have been working for all these years. Today there are over 19,000 online courses annually in our system for credit. Okay. Oh, I thought you were taking that. Anyway, I thought this slide was coming out because you guys know this, but
Painfully.
course offerings a couple of years ago were cut roughly 25%. Nearly 500,000 students were turned away, and that's where this initiative was born, in the idea that maybe we could provide access to more courses for our students through our online offerings. I'm going to go right through this. You know the funding. We got $16.9 million in December, and that lasted us through June 2014. So trying to spend that kind of money between December and June takes a lot of planning, and we haven't spent it all, but we are definitely on track to do that in the very near future. We have a lot of things that are just coming together now, but we're being very careful in our planning. What will we do? We're going to increase access to quality online courses and really focus on having students complete their goals. At this point, if a student comes through the system, it generally takes them more than 2 years. And the reason for that really is they can't get the classes in the order they need them. We can't provide enough courses for them to complete in a timely way. And so by adding online courses, we hope to alleviate some of this and get our students through. What do you need to increase access? If you ask people, if you ask administrators or teachers, what do they need to increase access to courses, they will say, we need buildings. Well, okay, let's build buildings, and we are. That takes a while, and it takes a lot of money. But we can add more online courses. The things that hold people back is generally the culture. There has to be a culture shift in a college that allows for online courses to be taught well, and for everyone to really participate in that building of an online program. It's not just courses anymore. Now you have to have quite a bit to go with it. The federal government requires we have the same services in our online programs that we do in our face-to-face. So you need that kind of culture shift, and you need the base culture to accept online programs at your college. You need to reduce costs of the technology and other resources, and so we're doing that with some common platforms that we'll need. You need to prepare the faculty and staff, you need to prepare courses, and you need to prepare the students. And any administrator will tell you, I can't add online courses, I don't have the teachers or the classes. So we began this initiative, and we began with a launch team. The launch team was in place by January. The money came to us in December. We continued to develop the work plan. The launch team was a group of folks who have experience in distance ed. Some of them are here today, and they set us in the right path to get going. We developed some of the governance structures and initially through the launch team, and we did some things technically. We started the CVC catalog refresh and a bunch of other things we got moving through the launch team in those first few months. I came on in March, by the way, and I just will tell you, I'm going to tell you Joe's note to me. On Thursday, he wrote me an email and said, Pat, we need a professional development officer. Can you start Monday? Joe. That was the end of it.
Started on Monday.
And I started on Monday. And so some of the work that we did in those early days was really forming a plan for moving forward that was flexible and we understood would not necessarily be what the end result would be. But it was just to get us started. This is huge. It has a myriad of components, and I don't think I'm going to be able to tell you about all of them. This slide deck will be available to you, and you can go through and look at all the pieces. I'm not going to read them all to you. Okay, go ahead. In this summer, in July, I was brought on board as the executive director, and we developed our team. These are the folks, and most of them are here. I don't know if they're in the room. I could turn around and look, but I'm not going to do that again. But they were all here yesterday, all the way through, listening to the CCFS folks, and most of them are here today. We stuck around. Some people even went home and got new clothes. I mean, went to the store last night, I'm sorry, and got new clothes, because they thought you would notice that they... Anyway, they're an amazing bunch, and some are from Foothill College, and most of them are from across the state. We work remotely because we represent the entire state. This summer, we held a DE coordinators retreat, and we talked about giving up your attachment to software tools that you've had forever and learning how to let go of those things and create something entirely new. The DE coordinators are an amazing bunch, and they did that. We started to recruit colleges for a pilot that would be testing a new course management system that we're purchasing. That would be a common course management system. And we were really surprised to find that we had 58 colleges respond and want to participate. So we readjusted our thinking we'd only get maybe 20, who would want to participate initially, not knowing what we were doing really, what it was all going to be and what it was going to turn out to be. 58 said they wanted to be part of it. I think that's a testament to our college's willingness to really do something exciting and innovative. So what we did with that was we created 3 groups for pilots, and I'll talk about those in just a minute. These are the 3 groups. These are the colleges that are in the pilot. There are 24 colleges in the pilot, and I thought it was going to be difficult to select them. It was not. They have a lot going on already, and one of the things we looked at was, do they train their faculty, and do they have robust programs, and do they have a lot of policies in place? And they do. These are an amazing group of colleges. One group will pilot student readiness solutions, which we are developing and have actually in the beta mode right now. We'll be seeing them in the next couple of weeks. And that's to get students ready to take online courses so they know what courses they should be in and whether they should be online students or not, and what skills they need. So the other group is the online tutoring group. There are 8 colleges there, and they're going to be testing some tutoring solutions that we have been looking for and purchased and worked really hard to identify. Those will be for the spring semester, after which we'll evaluate the readiness and the tutoring tools. They will be piloting these solutions within their own course management systems in their own courses. Then the third group is the full launch group, and we hope to get them into the new Common Course Management System by summer. And they will be piloting all of the aspects of a Common Course Management System, including an exchange. The exchange probably won't happen until fall. If we're lucky, it'll be in the fall. The exchange will allow for a leveling of students between colleges. So if you're at a college where you have more students than can get into the courses you need, and you're at another college that has seats in courses that these students need, they'll be able to take those courses online seamlessly. If you think about that for just a moment, any of you who understand student services and matriculation, this is no small task. We have to figure out how they're going to combine their financial aid resources. We're going to have to figure out how we register them with one registration system. So we have the OpenCC Apply with a federated ID, common ID for students. That's one of the requirements for being in the pilot for the exchange. What we're hoping is that colleges can come in and use the Common Course Management System. Those who want to participate in the exchange will. And if you can think about if that exchange had been available in 2011, would we have turned away close to 500,000 students? This is a way that we can mobilize when we need it in a flexible way to bring more classes on when we need them for our students. Because I hate to say this, but somebody want to knock on wood, we will have a downturn again. We know that it's cyclical, hopefully never like it has been, but it'll give us that ability to mobilize. Oh my goodness. We've done so much. We decided that all of our courses have to be reviewed for quality. The steering committee created a set of standards that we're very proud of for course design. The courses that are in the pilots are being reviewed right now by 30 reviewers from 28 different colleges that were trained in October, early October. And those people were amazing. And if you can think about this, we now have statewide standards that are out in the field that people are using. 30 people have been trained to intimately understand those standards, have normed them, and are now reviewing classes. If we did nothing else, we should see the quality of our online programs improve just because of that. People are very excited to have those standards. I'm not going to go through all of this. We're reviewing 70 courses right now. They're all CID courses, and we really want to thank the Academic Senate, particularly Michelle Pilati, for leading the CID efforts, because one of the things we know from looking at other consortia is to try to do the articulation piece on top of all of this would probably take us 10 years to complete this. So that piece of having the articulation for those courses is critical. So we chose courses in the Associate Degree of Transfer patterns that were CID approved. So those are the ones we're starting with. We have a list of 19. I think what I'm going to do here, I know I don't want to take a lot more of your time, but if you'll get this and you can take a look at our timeline, we have a lot of things going on. We're hoping to make the courses better by design and through professional development. The @1 courses are being redone and revamped for faculty, and we hope to offer those continually for free to faculty. Right now, we charge for that, and we want to change that and allow people to get trained for free. It does take additional training to be an excellent online teacher. It isn't simple. You have to know a lot in order to be able to do it effectively. Go ahead. We are going to bring our online teaching faculty together in creative summits. We're doing a repository of learning objects and course materials. We hope to have some model courses developed as well that people can go to the repository and take a look at, or the clearinghouse is what we're calling it now. You've probably heard about the clearinghouse. And they can go and find model classes and materials that we have created for our students, that our community college people have created for our community college students to meet their needs. I think I've just mentioned that, so we can go from this one. We hope to continue to stage new classes. We hope to start with the 70 that we've got, and then continue to stage new colleges and courses over the course of the next several semesters throughout the pilot. The expectations are that we'll continue to grow, and we'll continue to have colleges join in using the Common Course Management System. It was really clear to us at a task force meeting about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, that in order to provide resources across the state for students, readiness, tutoring, library services, all kinds of things from a common portal, in order to be able to do that, we had to have a common platform for those courses. And that was really clear at that meeting, and Patrick will remember that. It really just came up that that's what we had to do. So the RFP is out right now. We're hoping to have that CCMS in place by March and ready to start. It's been an amazing task that the Butte Tech Center folks have really been working hard on, along with a 50-member committee made up of faculty, administrators, and staff from across the system that are choosing this course management system No small task. So we will have that by the end of March. The true potential is to really increase success and retention in online courses. It's somewhat lower than our face-to-face, but the two areas inform each other. So as we're training faculty for online and they're learning how to use online resources, that also comes back to the face-to-face classroom. And so what we're hoping is we're going to see success and retention increase online, and I'm betting we're going to see it increase face-to-face as well from this effort. We want to increase the number of courses and programs available to students across the state. There is an effort at Kenyatta College to do engineering in a regional way because they can't offer all the classes at one college, and so they're trying to combine their efforts to put degrees in engineering together. We've spoken to them, and this might be a really good way for them to do that statewide, not just regionally. So we're going to be working with them. They have to get their courses CID approved. So Amelito's working on that right now. We hope that the country will recognize the California community colleges for what they know how to do in distance ed. And we are really, really good at it. And I think it's time for the attention of the country to be on us. We have been asked to join a project called D-Learn out of University of Texas at Arlington. And it's with university systems, and we're the only community college system that's been asked to join that. So that's going to give us some credibility in a variety of ways. And I think this is going to be one of those things that brings the system together in a way that hasn't happened before. And by all of us working on one project in one area, I think it'll give us the opportunity to do more collaboratively. There's a project website. You'll have this information. I do updates in a blog post about once a month, sometimes twice a month if I get to it. So thank you very much. If you have questions, I'm willing to answer questions.
Pat, thank you both, Joe, for this presentation. This is obviously a very big effort on the part of the system. And as Chancellor Thor mentioned earlier, we have been at it in various degrees and in various fashions across the state for the last 20 years, nearly 20 years. And as you suggested, maybe a little bit later than we'd like to have had it come about, because maybe a few years ago that would have these efforts would have helped us with some of the issues that we faced because of the recession. But it is timely, in my view. The idea of supporting professional development teaching online is really critical, but along with it is the awareness and the knowledge that districts and the administrative support needs to recognize in order to really have an effective online effort. And the kind of support that you're going to provide the system is really key to building that. So thank you very much. With that, any questions? Chancellor, do you have something to add before you? Member Solano?
A quick question. I think I understand it, but that first set of full pilots, those are the only ones that initially will be part of the exchange?
Yeah, just in the ones that start in the summer, we'll pilot because we have so many business processes we have to put together. It boggles the mind if you really think about it. And we're corralling that. We're starting to really understand what we need to do. There are going to have to be a lot of agreements made. And I think the colleges are up for that. You know, we have the common assessment situation happening right now and also the ed planning. And those two projects actually will work really well with what we're doing. So we're hoping that by combining these three things, we're going to really have some resources available for people and for our students in a really tight way where they could really do it seamlessly.
Then at the end of this program, so it's 4 years out because you've been basically at it 1 year, almost 1 year. How many, I know it might be hard to project this, but how many colleges do you think would be part of the online exchange? Or what's your hope at the end of 5 years?
You know, the exchange, we don't know.
Okay.
We're hoping to have over half of the colleges involved in the CCMS use, which will bring down the cost. Right now, I'm not sure how much we spend. I don't know, Patrick, if you know how much we spend, but I think I'm sorry, do you know?
I don't.
I know that too much, yeah. And I know that at Mount Santa Cena where I was, alone, we were spending over $100,000 just on the course management system alone every year, and that's not the people that supported it, just that. So if we can bring that cost down, we can start using the money for other things that students need. And I will say that we've worked really hard on this RFP. We have been told by other folks across the country and consultants that we've talked about, experts in this area, that we're they say 800-pound gorilla. I don't like that term exactly, but that we can, because of our size and our status, command that, and it just feels good, because I've always said if I was queen, right? So I can command that the CCMS that we end up with will be something different than what we've had. We're looking at something that will allow our students to communicate across the state, within their colleges, across their courses, and within their courses. My daughter took her master's and her AA and her bachelor's degree fully online. And when she talked to a group of teachers, they asked her what could she use that she didn't have, and she said, well, I don't have any college friends. And she said, you all do, but I don't. And so we need a place to communicate. We need to feel like we're together and not, all individuals taking classes individually. So that's been a guiding principle of this RFP process. There really aren't any course management vendors right now that provide that in the way that we're asking them to do. So we're hoping that our size, not just the money, but the status of being the vendor for our system will help get us to something new and better than we've had before. So we hope they'll come on. So that answers, if we can do that, we'll have more colleges involved. The exchange itself, I'm not sure about that one, and it's got a lot to do with the change in the situations and people now falling below their capacity. There was only 20, I think, when we started this, and there are now more than that, but there's incentives there in a variety of ways. So I think that the leveling will be natural, and then we'll see a lot more people become involved.
Thank you.
Member Sumi?
First of all, thank you very much for the presentation, and I know that all of us here are very excited about the initiative, and congratulate the whole team here at De Anza and all your partners who you showed up there. So I've written myself on online education and its potential, and I just think this is really a fabulous initiative. I would just for my own clarification, when I was looking at one of the slides that had the columns for the full launch group, so just so to be clear, if there was a deficiency of seats at for some course at, let's say, Butte, but there was an excess of seats at Ventura, those students up in the Butte area could take those seats in Ventura.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and do it within the system. So
Do it
right
within-
now, they're doing it now. We call it
Right.
swirling.
Right.
And they're doing it now. I've actually asked the RP group to do a study about that so I can talk to the CIOs about where their students are going. They're doing it now, but what happens is they go and apply at a college or two colleges, and the two colleges don't know that that's happening. And so, a student might be taking 9 units here and 3 units here, but can't even apply for a full load for financial aid because they can't put those things together. So it's really difficult for the students, and then at the end they have to send their transcripts and do all of the evaluation to get their degrees, and it's a little difficult for them. And I think this is going to make it easier. We'll have a home college where a student takes most of their degree,
Right.
and then just goes and gets the courses they can't get in a timely way from somewhere else.
Right.
We're also thinking that those classes that don't fill, the high-end, the capstone courses that we have a hard time making efficient because they don't necessarily fill, sometimes they aren't even offered every semester, that we'll be able to offer those kinds of classes too.
Well, I think that's terrific because, I look at K-12 issues, and I know that at the K-12 level, they have a contiguous counties rule that you can't take an online course if you're not, in a county contiguous to where the course is being offered, as if the internet stopped at the county line, And so, so I really do think that K-12 could learn a lot from the community college system on this.
We're happy to share.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I
Yeah,
sure
we
hope
are.
so.
And the K-12 is moving fast towards the online stuff. They're also doing a lot of honors classes and that kind of thing through our colleges and online classes. So we'll see how that all
Again,
pans
congratulations,
out.
then.
Thank you.
Member Budnick?
Great presentation. Thank you very much. Very intriguing. So I guess my question's for more non-traditional students. I do a lot of work with inmates in prison that are taking distance education, as well as some vets overseas that are taking distance education. We work a lot with Coastline, obviously, with those two populations, and I'm glad to see they're part of this. I guess my question: this is the first time in the history of the California prison system where an inmate's allowed to touch a computer. It was done with some great leadership at the Department of Corrections, as well as a couple $100,000 grant from the California Endowment. So at one prison, we now have inmates taking online courses. It's firewalled, it's protected, it's monitored, and we've had a few hundred inmates in online college for the first time in the history of the prison system. There's a new grant coming out from the California Wellness Foundation that's going to allow them to scale this in a much bigger way to more prisons. We've gone from 2,000 to 8,000 inmates in college over the last couple years. And now with some new legislation, it really opens it up wide to do more. My questions are both in terms of, obviously, if an inmate is doing a college course, it's probably not the safest thing for him to be able to be talked to a student that's sitting on campus. So are we looking at are there ways of a prison getting involved in this that doesn't include all the bells and whistles that your traditional campus student would have? And two, what's capacity looking like? Will there be capacity for non-traditional students that aren't living in the community?
Yeah, and the answer to that question is yes on both of those things. I think it's going to take us a little bit of creativity to figure out how we make sure that the students are getting the kind of education in the prisons that they need, and still protecting those students who are not inmates. So we'll have to do some work about that, but I think that's possible. Our courses are really good, and so we know that learning happens and that the retention over time is excellent from students who take online classes. So I think what we have to figure out is how do we solve, again, it's kind of like all the business processes, it's how do we solve for the problems that keep people from actually being a full-fledged student in a college. And those things can be done through the course management system in a tenancy setting where, we're looking at having all of the colleges in the system being in one course management system with tenancy. In other words, they have their own college's space on that system, and we could probably do that with the prisons as well.
There's absolutely nothing inherent in anything that we're planning that would exclude a prison student population from participating in this. I think it's really just working out the technical approach that's consistent with Department of Corrections guidelines for inmate participation.
Great.
And the second part of that question is capacity for non-traditional students. And really what you find in online classes is non-traditional students of all kinds.
Yeah.
Mainly people who can't get to campus for so many reasons. So we have a lot of non-traditional students. That readiness piece is a student readiness piece. It's to, really not only show them what it means to be an online student so they're not in the wrong place, but give them support in the things that they need to do in order to build their skill set to be online. So we're looking at the kinds of readiness that you would do for anyone on campus.
Great. I would love an e-copy of the slideshow if possible, so I can send it to the Department of Corrections.
We'll make sure you get that.
Thanks.
And, tell them to contact us. We'll be happy to talk to them.
Great. Thank you.
Belansky?
I just want to say also thank you very much, Pat, for your willingness to take on this project and be the executive director. I just have one question, though, about what is the status and process for the federated ID for students?
We're in a situation where the Butte Tech Center has the OpenCC apply, and right now I think they have until the end of summer. Is it the end of summer to get all of the colleges?
Last time I looked, there were about 70 colleges that had adopted OpenCCC Apply already, and there are about another 30 that are on the roadmap for this academic year. So by June of 15, virtually all of the colleges will have adopted that. And part of the process of adopting OpenCCC Apply is being prepared to consume that federated identity number.
Okay.
So literally by about June of 15, we should have almost the entire system using that federated identity.
And does that mean that some of the IDs that students currently have then would be changed to a new ID?
It could be. I have a feeling that what most colleges will do initially is accept either one, either their locally assigned ID or the system assigned ID. We are hearing more and more reports that students are calling up saying, this is my system ID, and that colleges are prepared to respond to that. So I think there'll be a lot of flexibility.
It would be really hard to do the exchange without that. But we have, we have several big systems, big districts in our system that aren't using CCC Apply at all. But we're not going to restrict them from using the resources or the course management system if they want to. The exchange would be the issue. That would be the only thing that would be difficult for them. And we might be able to work around that too, but we haven't. That's down the road a bit. Let's get one thing done at a time.
Member Epstein?
Yeah, hi, thank you for the great presentation. And I'm not sure if this is a sore subject or not, but I recall the governor coming down to San Jose State to praise the online education they were doing. And I was wondering if there's any coordination, what the difference and similarities are. What's your relationship to that?
We met with Kathy Fernandez from CSU this summer and had a good conversation with her about what they're doing. And I think we're probably going to have to work more closely with them so we're not duplicating effort, particularly with professional development. It's one of those places that we think we can help them. And as we do that, their trust and faith in our online classes will probably also increase. And we're seeing them do a lot more, so they're accepting more of our courses, which is interesting. They're doing a speech class now online. So we're talking about how can we manage that and still have the face-to-face speech components, and that's one of the things we're talking to them about. So I'd really like to see us work very closely together, and I think that's going to happen. The UCs are a little farther out there, and we haven't been as close to them as we'd like to be, and I think that's something that we have to work on.
Any other questions, Chancellor?
I do want to underscore two things that these folks who are relatively modest about their work talked about. The first is you've heard Pat mention getting the business practices in line, and I want to try to help you understand what that means, because what we've seen, for example, in retail over the last decade are large retailers going to an online presence. So Macy's, for example, that has stores all over the country, creates an online presence. Well, they do that with all those stores that have common business practices to begin with. So keep in mind that we have 72 different organizations or colleges or districts that have different business practices. So what they're trying to do is create an online environment that causes all 72 of those companies, if you will, to adopt common business practices in order to provide this online portal and ultimately the kind of transparency and maneuverability that students can go from one college to another. So they're way more modest than they should be. I would imagine that most retailers wouldn't take this on in the first place, and if they did, they'd spend not millions but billions to do it. So it is a Herculean effort on a very fast time frame, and I want to underscore the complexity and the miracle that they're creating here. The second thing I want to underscore is the concept of funding these online courses over the long haul. And the board should not assume that once we have this online portal and we have a common online course management system, that just means we're going to be able to serve more and more and more students with the same amount of money. The fact is, online education is as, if not in some cases, more expensive than classroom-based instruction. And we will always be able to offer instruction based on the amount of support we're able to glean, whether it's from the state or from other sources. But remember, about 93 or 4% of our total revenue comes from the state. And so although during the horrible downturn we experienced and the rationing of education, if we had had a fully robust online education system, we would have seen a more even impact of that. We would have seen some of the colleges that had to ration more be able to be helped, those students be helped by other colleges that had excess capacity. But I wouldn't want the board to leave here today thinking, hey, this is a panacea. We're obviously going to be able to double the size of the colleges in this state for the same amount of money. That just is not going to happen. We're going to develop this system, and I think What you will see is through horrible downturns, you'll be able to see the colleges operating increasingly efficiently, and that will certainly in the long run help students. But this system will require the kind of financial support that we have expected in the traditional education modalities in the past. Beyond
the 5 years, way beyond the 5 years. Yeah, thank you. And I think, thank you so much for saying both of those things. I just want to say, I know that for me, I wouldn't have been able to do my master's degree, to become a dean, to do those things if I hadn't been able to do the courses online. So there's an economic piece there. We know what our colleges do for the economics of the state. When our students can't come to us and they go elsewhere, it takes them a while to get back if they ever do. And so we don't want to lose them. We want them to stay in California and get educated and be able to help provide the funding that we need for this going forward. The other quick thing I want to say as far as thank you for understanding the business processes that have to happen. It's taking a lot of time. So if you're not seeing us jump as quickly as we need to into the exchange or into full launch of everything, it's because that just takes a tremendous amount of work and time. Some things are agreements and some things are technology issues that we have to solve. When I applied for this job and was in my second interview, Dr. Thor asked me what quality I had or characteristics I had to be able to do this job, and I said, does insanity count?
Yeah, you're right.
And it counts for a lot.
It kind of counts for a lot, yeah. And it counts for a lot. But you know, we have also great people working in our colleges really wanting to do what's best for students. So the guiding principle that we have is doing what's best for students. One of our first steering committee meetings, one of the representatives who was on the steering committee said, well, what if what we're doing is not good? What if what you want to do is not good for the college? In reference to the capacity issue. You know, what if it's not good for the college? And I said, well, if we're doing something that's good for students, I can't imagine that it's not going to be good for the college. But if someone perceives that it's good for the college, we'll address that and figure out how to make it work for colleges too. That's the difficult piece. But students come first.
Yes. Yeah, first and foremost, I want to commend you guys for the great work you're doing. All too often, I see students having to delay getting their associate's degree or transferring because they can't get that one last course because it's not available to them. The class is full in at their school or even their district. So I love to see the fact that we are taking steps to address that and increase the efficiency and help those students get out when they want to get out and live their lives in an efficient manner and get them where they're going and be successful. The one question I had is, have you run into any barriers in regard to accommodating to DSPS students? It seems that online courses, it would be a little bit tricky to give all the accommodations that we do at in class, in physical class, to our disabled students because there are a varying degree of those accommodations. For instance, if someone has a visual disability, are we providing that magnification tool on our online courses and for this specific portal?
I don't know if Jamie's here. I'm not going to turn around and see, but I don't know if you know Jamie Johnson, who is, I want to say a rabid advocate because he really is for disabled students. And one of the things that has to happen, it's a federal mandate, as well as in our Title V regulations, that all course materials online need to be accessible to all students through universal design. And so the accessibility piece is one that we are building into the program. And I know as an online teacher, sometimes I didn't use the rich media materials I could have used because I didn't have time to make them accessible. So as part of the review, the reviewers are looking at the accessibility issues, and Jamie and his crew are fixing them. Yeah. So if you reviewed my course and I had something that wasn't captioned, for example, Jamie would make sure that it got captioned before it could be in the exchange. So those things we are doing. We're also working with the local colleges involved to make sure they know who the students are that are taking their courses from other colleges so they can expect to see them or hear from them. There's a lot to be done there, but we work really hard for that. If a student walks into a face-to-face class and is blind, you know as a teacher. And you accommodate that student as they come to your class. But in an online class, you don't know. And they don't have to declare. So prior to offering the class, you have to have everything be accessible. It's a difficult, time-consuming task, and it's expensive. And we have a DECT grant that helps us, but it's also expensive. And that's one of the things that we really are working hard to accomplish in this initiative. It's a foremost
The first
priority.
full-time staff member we hired for the project was Jamie Johnson, our Director of Accessibility and User Experience. So I think that speaks pretty loudly to our commitment to make sure that all of these materials and every tool set that we use is fully accessible to students of every ability.
So there is the ability to recognize if there is a DSPS student in one of the online classes, no matter if it's a student outside of your district.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, having taught online for a number of years, I find online instruction to be a bit more labor-intensive maybe than on campus and more challenging in different ways. But it is a great venue for some students to really engage in subject matter and discussion. Much of what you're doing here is going to ultimately affect two things that we're very interested in. That's increased successful participation in online instruction and making sure that that means that our retention is higher than it has been. I think that we've seen movement in that direction. I think with your work, we'll certainly see much more of it. Congratulations and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now move on to information item 4.2, Democracy Commitment Project. Chancellor Bryce.
Thank you, President Baca, members of the board. You have previously received some introductory information on this subject, but as the board asked at retreat, you're very interested in civic responsibility, and several of the board members have been involved in activities in that venue in recent months. And so I've asked Brian Murphy, president here at De Anza, to give you an update today on the democracy commitment, which is a wonderful example of a civic responsibility activity that's being undertaken across the country, but specifically by a number of our colleges right here in California. And what I hope will come out of today's conversation is a fuller understanding of this program, and I think you as a board will be excited about working to try to get more and more of our colleges involved. And with that,
I was told it was preloaded, so I was wondering how to
it probably is preloaded, but we're not sure where.
God, there we are.
Got to be good for something every once in a while.
All right. And so it's a pleasure to introduce President of De Anza College, Brian Murphy.
Very much. Now that I am technically engaged here, I've passed out a packet of old-fashioned print material, which also includes the presentation that I have up there. So I wanted you to be able to have it as a takeaway. Chair Baca, Chancellor Harris, and members of the board, I want to suggest stepping back a bit from the particulars of our daily work to ask a more fundamental question, which is the nature of the crisis we face. The dominant narrative for the last 6 years in the country has been almost overwhelmingly and principally economic. That the role and function of American higher education has been to respond to the economic crisis precipitated in 2008. And much of our conversations at colleges and you at the board has been focused on workforce preparation, on the adequacy of education for employability. At the same time, and largely unspoken about, is an enduring and profound crisis in democratic practice and in the democratic culture of the country. Last Tuesday, 37% of eligible voters voted in the by-election, the lowest percentage in 72 years. The percentage of persons between the age of 18 and 30 who voted in that election was 21%, which means 4 out of 5 Americans eligible to vote between 18 and 30 did not exercise the franchise. We have the lowest voting turnout of any advanced industrial country by some order of magnitude. Of all 170 countries where surveys are even taken, the United States ranks 120th of the percentage of our eligible voters who vote. If it's a percentage of adults, we're 138th, and there is no industrialized nation of any size anywhere near as poor in its representation as ourselves. This is then compounded by a level of civic ignorance that is stunning and dangerous. 17% of Americans between 18 and 30 know how to find Afghanistan on the map. And our young people are sent there to die, and we don't even know where it is. The number of Americans who can't identify the 3 branches of government is staggering. Those who do not know how to list the fundamental rights they themselves have as citizens is staggering. The reason I frame it like this is because there is an urgency to the economic crisis that drives most of our decisions, and we do not yet share an urgency regarding the political crisis, which I think threatens the country's future in a profound and deep and disturbing way. 3 years ago, a number of community college leaders across the country, including Bryce Harris, signed a declaration called the Democracy Commitment, which is reproduced here. It was used yesterday, I believe, as collateral in another conversation.
Yeah, but they didn't tear it up like they did mine.
Exactly. My God, don't tear this up. It's like, any event. This represents the signatures of some 50 community college leaders across the country who were brought together by the New York Times for the signing of this symbolic declaration, which was the commitment. If I can push my little button here. By God. There's John Dewey saying, best pay attention. In 2011, a number of persons signed this declaration, which has as its fundamental commitment that every community college student have an education in democracy. And what the Democracy Commitment provides is a national platform for the development and expansion of programs, both curricular and extracurricular, the sharing of best practices across our many campuses, in an effort to learn from one another how we can reinvigorate our students in democratic skills as well as democratic knowledge. We are now, after 3 years, on 205 campuses with a combined enrollment of 3 million students. This is no longer a trivial sideshow. There are 13 million Americans enrolled in our community colleges. That's half of all the undergraduates in the United States. It matters that we care about this. And what we're finding all over the country, in Arizona, in Maricopa, in Miami-Dade, in Florida, LaGuardia in New York, Lane College in Oregon, Delta in the Midwest, all over the country, small and big colleges, students wanting to know more about this and faculty and staff eager to participate in it. The participating California community colleges are the following, these 6, by golly, these 6, those, and then those. And it's some 23 colleges, I think. And at the end, I have asterisked the California Community College's Chancellor's office because Jack Scott, as Chancellor, was one of the founding signatories, and Bryce Harris, as the current Chancellor, is also a signatory and, if you will, a sponsor. So in addition to our 23 colleges, we have the Chancellor's office. This is a variety of programs. What I thought I'd do is just give you 2 or 3. There's the Dreamers Club at Cañada, which is an organization of undocumented students who have worked to provide legal services for undocumented students in the Redwood City area, but more importantly have come together with documented and citizen students to talk about what it means to have citizenship or to not have citizenship, what human rights you enjoy regardless of your legal status. So it has, in addition to a service component, an educational component. At LA Trade Technical College, there was an entire program around Proposition 47, registering voters, but also, again, talking about felony convictions versus misdemeanors, the prison system, incarceration rates. Foothill College has an annual political awareness day. They bring candidates if there are people running. They bring advocates if there's propositions on the awareness. Every March, you all know, the March in March brings together thousands of community college students. What you may not know is in preparation for the March in March, campus after campus speaks to what the public issues are, what they're advocating for, more than the budget, what public policy issues matter. At De Anza, there have been a variety of activities every year under the wonderful phrase, Occupy for Education at De Anza, a tent city, where students create, if you will, their own educational environment. This last year was on the theme of economic inequality. This year was also an Art and Social Justice Leadership Institute, where within our curriculum, the learning communities came together to talk about, with an artist in residence, to create art around incarceration. We have at De Anza a public policy school, which is a two-course sequence that prepares students for an annual trip to Washington to do lobbying. I've given you, for those of you who want then to look at the website, the place you can find the website and the national coordinator, whose name is Stephanie South. I want to mention three quick things. This project, as a national project, is a partnership between the American Community Colleges and the Association of American State Colleges and Universities. They have a project now 11 years old called the American Democracy Project. It's 242 universities. 52% of their graduates are transfers from the community colleges. Their students are our students. This partnership between ASCU and ourselves allows us to integrate programs and create what we call civic pathways, so that there has been, over the last 3 years, joint meetings. Our national coordinator, Ms. South, is housed, in fact, in the ASCU offices in Washington, D.C. We have the formal endorsement of the Association of American Community Colleges, the Association of American Colleges and Universities, but the partnership with ASCU is really where the rubber hits the road, because it's in those state institutions that the great majority of our transfer students go. The partnership really matters. The second thing to say, honestly, is we are entirely self-funded. We had a wonderful $40,000 a year grant for 3 years from a family foundation, and that's it. It's $1,000 to buy in from a campus. There's a wonderfulness to being self-funded, which is you don't have to look over your shoulder to the foundation who funded you. That's compensated for by the poverty that comes with not being funded. Our lack of funding, I want to contrast with the presentation you just heard. It really matters, the funding that we got from the state to build the online presence. She almost casually mentioned faculty institutes. The capacity to bring people together to talk with each other about how to build program is invaluable, and it takes money. So what we have found in this project is that we are self-funding that which we wish somebody else funded. So I would urge you in your private reflections, if you know wealthy people, or if you are aware of foundations for whom civic engagement might matter, by golly, we'd love to hear from them, because we lack right now the resources to bring our folks together. Final thing I'd say is that this operates under a kind of general let 1,000 flowers bloom. There is no one template. What civic engagement and democracy means in Lone Star College in Central Texas is really different than it means at De Anza College. The conditions under which folks in New Orleans operate are different than here. Maricopa just had an election which gave a majority of their governing board to the Tea Party, may have a different flavor than it had before that election. So we're not under any illusion that there's one way to do this. What we've tried to create is a national platform where we can talk to one another and learn from one another. I'll say finally one important thing. It's in the relationship between curriculum and extracurricular that this work happens. It is a fact of life in the California community colleges that our curriculum is colonized by the University of California. And therefore, it is difficult for our faculty to autonomously generate new requirements, new insistences. The state of Massachusetts just imposed, as a piece of legislation, that all students in all public institutions have to go through a process of civic engagement and civic learning. And all over that state, they're now scrambling to figure out how to do that. We've gone quickly from 3 member colleges in Massachusetts to 15 overnight, because everybody wants to know how they meet the state mandate. In California, it's entirely voluntary because each of our colleges wrestles with the question of what do we require and how do we make it matter. And in that, our partners within the Academic Senate, statewide Academic Senate endorsed this project 2 years ago. Thank heavens it became a really important thing statewide to be able to say that. They're wrestling with that question. How at De Anza College can we make civic learning an expected part of what every graduate would have? We insist they all know how to write. That's part of the graduation deal. Do they know democracy? And wouldn't it be helpful if the University of California and the California State University required it as a matter of passage to their institutions? So I'm delighted to answer any questions and invite, Bryce and I have spoken about this, we could really use your rhetorical support. The fact that I know this matters to many of you, because I spoke with some of you even as late as yesterday, that if we could, we were talking, if we could triple the number of schools in this state in 2 years that have endorsed this and take it up. It does take the attention of a president and a chancellor, and it takes the attention of those in the faculty and staff who you will find on every college have been working on this for years, but often in the margins.
President Murphy, thank you very much. You know, hopefully, and it's our intent to do more than a rhetorical support of this project, so we're going to be joining you in the coming months and years on really bringing emphasis to this. Last spring, Vice President Baum and I were at the Annenberg Center, and Vice President Baum hosted a setting for Associate Justice Kennedy, Anthony Kennedy, to meet with some students from College of the Desert. And at that time, we had an opportunity to talk with him and with Catherine Jameson, who also met with this board a couple of meetings ago, regarding efforts to get greater civic engagement and commitment to democracy. It is indeed true what you say, that everyone practices it a little bit differently, and some of that we saw yesterday, but the essential basic principles are all there across this country, and those are the things that we really need to certainly inspire students to recognize. The institutions that have worked for a great many years now, and those ideals that really support the idea of democracy and freedom. There is a effort that under the leadership of President Morrison and Vice President Bornstein in the Academic Senate this spring, to see if we can bring greater light to this matter. And there are also some things we have made a commitment as this board under the Chancellor's leadership to work in this area. And during the coming months, we will do that. Vice President Baum.
Thank you very much. And first off, I want to thank the Chancellor and President Murphy. Just thank you for bringing this to community college students and emphasizing the importance of understanding our civic institutions. This is completely out of left field, but this morning at 7:30, I got a phone call while I was in my hotel room putting on my tie. And it was very random. It was Jean Kennedy Smith, the last surviving member of the Kennedy family, President Kennedy's younger sister. And I had extended an invitation to her a month ago to attend a program that I was organizing in New York City. And she called and she says, oh, I'd been held up a little bit, but I wanted to get back to you. But what I really want to talk to you about is I'm very concerned about the lack of voting among young people in this last election. And I want to put a challenge to you, and I want to start a national conversation about young people getting involved in voting, and perhaps, she's talking to PBS, and then she says, and she throws things out like, yeah, and there was that TV host that Teddy was on the show a lot, and I said, Jon Stewart. She says, yeah, he's interested in this, and he'd want to help out with this, and it was just eerie because I said, well, as a matter of fact, today, I don't know if you know this, because she knows me in my hat that I wear at USC. I'm involved with the leadership of the Community College Board of Governors, and we're having a presentation on getting students and young people engaged in our democratic institutions, and so we have an ally in Jean Kennedy Smith, if we need to call on that at some point. She's based in New York, though. But it was just a kind of a divine, reinforcement of the mission that you're pursuing. And I wanted to call out again what I loved about the declaration that you've asked people to sign on, is that beyond access to education itself, colleges, universities have an obligation to educate about democracy, to engage students in both understanding civic institutions and the practical experience. And I think for me the priority is, as research has shown, we've got to educate students in our democratic institution. What makes the United States different? I've had the opportunity in the last 60 days to be both in Saudi Arabia and Sweden, and those are very different societies. But people in those societies still look to the United States as one of the great hopes of our global community. And I don't think we fully appreciate it somehow, that what makes us different. And it's those constitutional rights that President Baca mentioned that Justice Kennedy felt so passionately about, that he wanted to impart to community college students. And he actually grabbed President Baca, he says, I need your help in bringing this to community college students, because there's a growing recognition about the true foundation of our American society and opportunity and others is largely based in the strength of our community college system and the access and the education that it provides. And so I'm eager to continue to partner and support and get excited about what you're doing. And then one of the first things I hope to do when I take the gavel from President Baca is ask him to help lead that effort with David Moore's Academic Senate to see how we can not only do these as extracurricular activities, but actually integrate them more effectively into the fabric of our instruction at community colleges, so that every student who goes to a community college understands what sets them apart, what sets their world, their community apart, what rights do they have that are given by our history and our Constitution that will enable them to continue keeping this a very strong and powerful nation. So I'm looking forward to hearing about more on how we can do this, and not only talking about it, but seeing how we can act on it. I'll be looking to President Baca for helping guide the board in how we pursue that.
Well, if there's any set of conversations or dialogue that any grouping of you would like to have, there are really superb people at Kenyatta, at Laney, at LA Trade Tech, at San Diego, Pasadena. I mean, there's some really, really gifted people doing things. And so to really talk about how to expand it and what resources are required and how to make it significant in the lives of our students. The other thing I would say is that there's an entirely existing infrastructure within the colleges of the associated student governments. They are sometimes, however, underfunded and marginal within a lot of the spaces. I think if Julie Makaman is still here. By golly, she's there, the student body president at De Anza College. I mean, she presides, Julia, presides over an organization that has an independent budget of about $1,300,000, and without their support, many of the services on this campus wouldn't exist. But among the other things they have been incredibly important in is the support of public work, of dialogue and conversation about political things, renting the buses to go to Sacramento. I mean, student government is enormously important and has been a big partner. So,
And one challenge we'll have, though, it's a very crowded field. I used to work at C-SPAN. They have a kind of a civics education initiative, C-SPAN in the classroom and others. And how do we, and we'll want to work together to figure out ways to leverage and complement and as the word that Vaughn uses, braid efforts so that they're complementary instead of competing as well.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to the student government aspect to all this. I bring an interesting perspective being a student member on the board as well as the student government president at my local college. And this is something that it's an issue that's pretty pervasive around all student governments is student mobilization and generally embedded within the Constitution and bylaws of each and every student government is a voter registration and voter mobilization aspect to all of this. And I think a common thread in regard to problems there is the lack of resources or lack of knowledge of resources among these student groups. Thankfully, I was able to present on something seemingly somewhat unrelated at the General Assembly last weekend with an organization called the Young Invincibles, who originated out of Georgetown and was involved with the Affordable Care Act and how to disseminate that to students. But now they're more so dealing with policy advocacy, and they have certain programs like the Student Impact Program where they visit colleges and visit student organizations to really spread best practices to students. And I think a lot of the problem is, again, that student governments and students in general aren't provided or aren't knowledgeable about these resources that are available to them. There may be a lot of civic engagement programs, but if we're not spreading awareness of those to especially the grassroots organizations like these student governments where the impact can really be made, I think we're lacking in a key piece here. And I'll take it upon myself to spread awareness of this commitment to the Student Senate for California Community Colleges and hopefully be able to disseminate it among the regions and hopefully the local student governments as well. And I'd also like to see some of the civic engagement aspects embedded in some of our curriculum as well, as has been mentioned before, not only in political science classes, but sociology and psychology as well, because those are relevant aspects to all of this. And I oftentimes don't think students realize that, and really approaching the students in the classroom from all of those angles will give a wholesome perspective to them as to how important this really is. And one common thread, again, is among students that discourages them from registering to vote or voting in general is I think there's a little bit of a belief among students that their vote is somewhat insignificant. Right. And we need to instill within them the fact that, hey, even for an example, in some of the midterm elections, I was talking with Vice Chancellor Vince Stewart, and there's an election in California that was decided so far by 7 votes. And so that really does instill the significance of every single vote. And again, approaching this from a multi-perspective route through embedding our curriculum in multiple classrooms, not only political science, because that's expected among the students, will really instill the significance and the value in voting. And again, those voter mobilization and voter registration events are being held by our student governments, but that's all they can do. The students will have to come and register themselves with the forms that we provide them, but without the significance instilled within them from a multi-angular approach, we won't be able to make that much of an impact. So I'll do what I can to spread awareness of all of this throughout the student governments and throughout the Student Senate as well. And I think that's really what it's going to take, is a multi-angular approach to all of this to really make the impact that we want to see.
Thank you, Member Van Loon. Any other questions? President Murphy, thank you very much for your work on this, and again, thank you very much for hosting us campus. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. We'll now take about a 5-10 minute break.